But yes, this is episode 7.
Sweet.
It says we're live. I think we're live.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah. Welcome to the Casual Master Quest episode 7. I am your host for the day, Nick. And then in this corner, we have Cam.
What's up?
Our main host, Tyler Widodo, is unfortunately not able to be with us today on the fact that he's just gotten married and he's probably at his reception, dancing drunkenly, having fun.
A terrible excuse, really. There's really no excuse to not be on the podcast.
No, it's lack of commitment, lack of
Yeah,
discipline. It's
yeah.
disappointing, really.
We'll
I
punish
think
him later.
mutiny. I think a mutiny is in order.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So episode 7. I can't believe it's actually been 7 weeks. It feels like it's been a lot longer.
Yeah.
So today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter. Just because we don't have our main host, and also it's been a really slow week, I think, except for some drama on different, with different companies. It's been a really slow week.
Yeah, and things often feel slow by comparison too, just because once you get after E3, of course, E3 happens, there's a windfall of news, and then there was so much going on that it feels afterwards like, wow, there's nothing. Just a big nothing, and it's like, oh, big gap.
It's like the quiet after like a Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody's stuffed
Right.
their faces and nobody wants to move, and everybody's
Yeah.
lazing around for a while.
Yeah.
So Cam, what you been playing this week?
All right, so I actually went back and I've been playing a lot of shooters because what I've been doing is, as I mentioned last time, I picked up Game Pass on Xbox
Right.
One. So I'm going back, just playing a bunch of stuff. I worked through State of Decay 2. I played all of Halo 5. I'm playing Gears of War 3 right now, and I also played all of Homefront Revolution, a game I normally wouldn't have picked up at all, but I had it for free on Games Pass, so why not? But yeah, no, a lot of stuff there to talk about if you want to pick on any particular one.
There was a big deal I remember about Homefront a few years ago when it came out. What was the deal about? I never played it and I've never seen any gameplay. So
I mean, Homefront. So the thing was about it was just very mediocre as a game. The first Homefront's reception wasn't that great, and what they decided to do with the second one was make it open world. So it's almost like it's more so like not Ubisoft towers necessarily, but you have to go around and liberate specific strongholds and jump around and that sort of thing. The core narrative's not that impressive, and gameplay's a little wonky. There's definitely some glitches and that sort of thing. But the really silly thing about it that I didn't know about and I discovered is apparently for some reason they ported the entirety of Time Splitters 2 in an arcade machine in the game. So like I started up an arcade machine in the game, just figuring it'd be like, oh, it's probably some 8-bit joke game they made, and straight the entirety of Time Splitters 2. And it's just like campaign, and I was like, yeah. And I played for like 45 minutes. It was crazy. I don't know why that happened. I'm gonna look into that, but it was pretty wild. But yeah, overall, relatively unremarkable game, except for that, I'd say.
yeah, probably a reason for people to buy the game so they can play Time Splitters too.
Seriously, because I mean, in effect, right? That's a remaster, in effect, because you get to play it on higher resolution.
Right.
So,
Right, yeah.
in effect, it's a sort of upscaled.
Is that the future of remastering old games? Port them into existing games that you've just made?
I mean, hey, I'd like to see it more. That'd be pretty rad. Like, let's be real. What if, what's it called? We were talking about Metal Wolf Chaos at E3, but what if you were just playing Dark Souls and you just happen to run into Metal Wolf Chaos in the middle of it? Just saying. Wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. So tell me about in pre-show. You tell me you had some interesting thoughts about Halo 5.
Yeah, so I know we talked about Halo 5.
Yeah.
So I think last episode we were talking about it and how the narrative gave you the impression that it was going to be a very morally gray game between Spartan Locke and
Yeah,
Master
yeah.
Chief. And it's just a big nothing burger. Oh man.
It's pretty much nothing.
It was even less than I thought, because when we were talking about it, I figured there would be a divide between the two, but it would be like, okay, but both sides are, sort of okay. Like it's not going to be a terrible divide or anything like that. But what it actually was they weren't even on opposite sides like ever. Like Locke was just trying to bring him in because he went off on his own and didn't take leave. And then like about halfway in, the Master Chief starts to indicate like, no, I'm gonna like Cortana's dangerous. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. there was like, there's no conflict. They fight once in a cutscene at the very beginning. It's ridiculous.
Despite that fight being really cool, it was disappointing. It reminded me, no, when I saw Batman versus Superman, it reminded me heavily of Halo 5 because it was like, oh, I hate you, no, I hate you, Martha. Oh wait, are we best friends now?
Pretty much.
That's really all it reminded me
Yeah.
of.
I also expected him to fight at least once, like in a firefight or something. Like, do you get to control
like a
it?
full-blown like tactical strategic
Yeah.
firefight between the two teams, Team
Yeah.
Blue and Team Lock. That would have been great. because if you've seen the trailers as well, there were two specific trailers where one was Master Chief narrating
Yep.
and walking towards downed Agent Locke with a gun in his hand, and the other trailer was vice versa, where it was Agent Locke walking towards a downed Master Chief with a gun in his hand and giving
Yep.
some crappy voiceover about how done wrong and they must be brought to justice, or
Uh-huh.
the other side where like I'm going to do what I want because this is what's right and what needs to be done. And then there was even an AR, I guess the closest you could say was a podcast with uh, Jordan Key. No, what are those? Key and Peele, the
Okay.
Key guy, the tall guy, narrating it as a journalist or investigator going through Oni files, Oni reports, finding out the truth. It was called Hunt the Truth.
Oh my, that's so funny. Like it almost makes me wonder if the narrative changed at some point, because when you play the actual game, the only thing Master Chief does wrong, the only reason that they're even going after him is because he straight took leave without telling them. He's
Yeah,
like
he just went AWOL and he's
he
like,
just went
no.
AWOL. He didn't even do anything bad. He just left, and they were like, "Hey, you're what's it called, on you're gone without leave or absent without leave or something like that. So
Yeah.
we got to bring you in." There's no overarching like truth or justice or anything. It's ridiculous. But yeah, besides that, I enjoyed playing it a little bit. It's always fun to just play through a Halo campaign, especially having been out for so long. Last time I played was the launch of 4. So
Okay.
yeah, it was good to get back in.
No, despite
yeah.
everything, core gunplay multiplayer was fantastic.
Mhm.
I think because of the false advertising, the false marketing, that would really like hurt the game in the long run. But the devs have been fantastic in terms of releasing updates and keeping people updated, posted regularly on what's happening, what changes they're bringing. But yeah, no, story was bad. Advertisement was bad.
Yeah, and then I started the game up and it started giving me card packs of things I could open. Like there was like daily loot boxes basically. And I didn't even know what that was. I was just like, "Oh, I'm unlocking weapons, I'm unlocking stuff." That's dangerous system. I would have gotten addicted to it. So, good thing I didn't wait. Good thing I waited till now at least, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've been playing standards. I'm a man of habit. Pokemon Go, Overwatch, Destiny 2, Fortnite.
Yeah,
Really,
so
there's not much around that.
Pokemon Go though. So, have you played around with the friend system and all that yet?
Yes, my roommate, who's now in Ukraine, he flew out in the middle of the week, sent me a gift from Ukraine, and it was great. I got Ultra Balls because I had 0 Pokeballs because I've not been grinding Pokestops, so
Yep.
I have some now, and I have to start grinding to get ready for the community day event. But no, it's great. It's a system I'm sure they've given a lot of thought to, especially with trading, and that you need Stardust, and some legendaries have like a really high Stardust requirement.
It's like 100,000 or something.
Which makes sense and doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Like it makes sense because you want people to actually work for the Pokemon and like, make them go like there are Pokemon that are like region based.
Yeah, region specific.
So,
Yep.
region specific Pokemon. So it makes sense for those Pokemon to have trading in the game. And then so they probably want, but the legendaries that we're giving you through like the weekly stuff, you should probably go out and do it rather than cheese it and just get it from your friends.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, and I like that. But the whole point of trading, again, it's these things where they're taking stuff from the original, the core games, and then
just
making
it fit a mobile audience, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I think what they did do was they made it not a problem because everyone was concerned that it was going to break the game economy, basically. That what was going to happen was you're going to have everybody trading up their 100 IV from 8 different bot accounts, and people were going to be trading legendaries till everyone had everything. But the way they limited it in a way so that you still do have to work to get the things you want. But I think what it is nice for, and what I am glad about, is despite the large cost, what this means now is, say you're extremely busy for a month and you can't go on the raids when a particular Pokemon's in rotation, which sometimes is only a couple weeks. Your friend picks up an extra one, and now you can actually have a way to get it and not miss out on that, which is something I'm consistently worried about. Like anytime a new legendary comes out, I'm like there the first day, like cancel all my plans. I need to catch this thing before people stop fighting the raids, basically. So I actually got a couple Reggie so far. Did you happen to grab any? Or
no, I'm a lonely man. I don't have any friends, so no, I like, again, Pokemon Go has been great. I've been enjoying my time with it. I've actually gone on a lot more walks, which is a shocking thing to me. Nobody, if you tell my family I'm going out for a walk, they'll think something's wrong with me. They'll think I need to go to the doctor or figure out what's going on. But no, it's great. Again, so for collecting point of view, or for people who have time constraints or whatever other like preoccupations, it makes sense. But I just have my gripe with mobile games and Pokemon Go. But it's good. It's fun. It is what it is.
The one net positive thing I think about it is the gift system and the friend system, because that's just basically more items for everybody, because you get them pretty frequently. And if you're sending gifts back and forth, like you're getting like 10 Ultra Balls every time. Like I got 3 gifts today, I think, so far. And it's just like, just give me more eggs, just give me more stuff. Like it's making items not as rare, especially Pokeballs, which I'm constantly running out of. So I'm happy about that.
Oh yeah, no, the friend system I think should have been implemented a long time ago.
It really should have been. This was all promised at the launch trailer, honestly, and it's been 2 years now, and they finally got it out. So, yeah.
I would imagine eventually there would be a system where you'd be able to party up with your friends, and let's say max party of 4 or 5, and go like raiding or battling gyms or doing something together, which would give people like a party bonus.
Yeah, or even just like a squad thing, like kind of like that, a squad mechanic where you team up with you have a small team and you get bonuses. Yeah, that'd be nice. That would definitely, for XP, for Stardust, maybe a couple extra items, totally worth it. Because this is at the point in time in a mobile game's lifespan where Pokemon Go, because people have stopped playing, they need to now court the existing players by giving them more stuff. This is the time when they need to give more items, when they need to give more experience. So it's good that they are. But yeah,
and the better you can retain your current player base, it eventually starts drawing in more people.
Yeah, and people might come back and find that they enjoy the game now because there's so many more features. I mean, if we go from what it was like at launch to what it's like now, I think the only thing that I miss is the footprint system, really.
What was the footprints? It shows you number of footprints, shows how far it is?
Yeah, remember you could track down Pokemon specifically? You could specifically track certain Pokemon via their footsteps and stuff and target them. That I do miss, but other than that, I mean, it's a completely different game. There's so many new features now. So that's Pokemon Go.
My understanding of Pokemon Go, when they first announced it and they were showing all the trailers, was that you'd be able to set up a gym yourself, right? And I understand like why that didn't happen and why it's not the way it is now. But again, going back to like the party system, the squad system, I think now it's possible. Maybe have not as many as like regular gyms now, but have like super gyms where you can go, and if it's an empty, you go set up and you can invite your friends and you can set up. If it's not empty, you squad up, go battle the gym, take out the people, win, and then you can set up there.
Yeah, I've even suggested, I know, what's it called? I think that Invest did this, or not Invest. Geez, what was Niantic's other game? I'm forgetting the name of it right now.
Oh,
they did.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's the Portal one. And what they have is they have a system, I believe, once you get to a high enough level that you can actually drop a portal. You can start requesting where portals should be dropped. So I think Pokemon Go actually at the higher levels maybe give every player, once they hit level 40, maybe give them either a Pokestop drop or maybe even a gym drop among a team so that you can create a new gym and have other people come and challenge it. Because I know, like you said, when the game got announced, I was in college in the game organization, and we were like, oh, we're going to make gyms and everyone in Gamer can, fight the gyms and it's going to be awesome. We're going to plan out our teams. But of course, you couldn't do any of that. But no, I would like that going forward. I think we're at the point where we should start maybe at the highest level getting some sort of request system or something. That'd be cool, especially for dropping gyms. I'd really like that.
Yeah, so that's Pokemon Go. We've got a couple topics today. First one being the Nintendo cartridge hack / ban. Do you want to lead us off on that, Cam?
Yeah, so this is actually pretty scary. So basically what happens is the Nintendo Switch got hacked very early, which we've talked about briefly before, I believe. But now there's the scenario where certain game cartridges, basically, you can use the cartridge itself to dump the ROM of the game so that somebody can play it on an emulator. However, because each cartridge has a specific certificate associated with it, when that game is dumped and goes online, people know about that. Nintendo is informed about that, and they can ban that specific cartridge from going online, right? So what that means is there now, and they've decided to, is the report. So they're banning specific cartridges that have been used in hacks for going online. What this means, though, is the used market for Nintendo Switch games becomes dangerous, because if you don't know, basically, if that cartridge has been used online before. So if you get a used game from GameStop and you on your Switch try and go online with that cartridge, the lockout's based on the cartridge, so you'd lose online functionality. So in the best case scenario, imagine a game like Splatoon, right? And this is the best case, because there's a worst case. But you get Splatoon, and it turns out it's a hacked cartridge, so you can't go online with it. And then, you know, what has to happen is retailers now, if this is true, will have to test every game before they actually sell it. Right. And the more dangerous thing, I've heard other reports, and this hasn't been confirmed by Nintendo themselves yet, but a lot of people are reporting it, that if you do use a hacked cartridge, your entire Switch online functionality gets banned, meaning your account. So if you happen innocently to pick up a used cartridge that was hacked, you could get banned entirely for using your Switch online, which is extra dangerous, because then retailers can't even test it, because their units would get banned if they went to test it. So it becomes a huge minefield, an enormous minefield as far as used games go. So I think it's an incredibly heavy-handed tactic. We'll see the extent of it. We'll see how much Nintendo is doing it, because these are very early reports, last couple of days. But I'm sure this news story is going to explode a little bit more. But that's what we're dealing with right now. That's the early report on that.
Well, I'm sure if you're a company like Nintendo, you would ensure that if you're carrying out, if you're enforcing martial law to such an extent like this, you would have some sort of support system for people to be like, look, if you're a consumer and you happen to buy a hacked cartridge, be like, look, I bought this by mistake. I didn't know. Here's my receipt. This is the proof that I didn't hack this. I just bought this. Yeah. Right. And for them to do something, or to provide retailers with tools to be able to test. Hack cartridges or banned cartridges.
And I think that would be, if Nintendo does want to enforce this sort of draconian measure, I think the way that they're going to have to make it right is to send that sort of tool to specifically to retailers.
Yeah, that sucks. People suck.
Yeah, no.
You okay there?
Yeah, I had to go off to. Did it not mute in time?
No, I had to mute it.
Okay, cool. No, I had to mute it to cough.
That sucks. So this is very similar to what's happening with the Sony crossplay stuff, specifically with Fortnite.
Yeah, man, the Switch, just honestly, this entire port Fortnite to Switch situation has unveiled a lot of things. There's a lot going on with it.
Yeah, so basically, for those who don't know or haven't heard, if you have a Epic Games account that you've used to play Fortnite, and if you happen to have played it on your PlayStation, if you use that same account to log into a Nintendo Switch or onto PC or onto Xbox, it doesn't let you, and it locks out your account.
Yeah, you can only use it tied to one thing. Specifically on Sony's end, however, because everything else has crossplay. So on your PC, on Switch, on mobile, on Xbox One, you can crossplay. But Sony specifically will not let you. So if you ever play your account on Sony, it's locked there. And you can't play it on any of the other platforms afterwards, which, there's a lot there in terms of if you have bought things on one platform and the content locked there. But basically Sony's, because and this is a thing, right? Because Sony is doing this 100% financially, because they're the platform holder, and they're the primary platform holder as well. They're the most popular console. That's why they can get away with this. And you know what? There's a big case to say if Microsoft was in first place, they might be doing the same thing. But because Sony doesn't feel like they need to allow crossplay, that doesn't benefit them at all. Instead, because there's so many PS4s out there, they could just force people to get PS4s if they want to do it.
This is true. From a financial standpoint, I understand. But when you start doing things that doesn't directly benefit the end consumer, that's what hurts you in the long run. So in the long run, I think this could cause Sony to lose, because they've always been the one proponent against crossplay with a whole bunch of games. And I think we talked about this a few episodes ago, right? Yep. Microsoft is, despite the rivalry and despite Microsoft wanting to one-up Sony at any given time, they've been open to crossplay, because even then, I think they understand the point of entertainment, the point of allowing people to play games. Right. Sure, every console has their exclusives, but the exclusives that aren't there, they should at least allow crossplay, because it benefits the consumer. And at the end, whatever the consumer decides is best or what they want is what ends up winning in the long run. So while Sony might be winning right now, it's not a good idea for even if the effects don't show through right now, it'll happen, 4 or 5 years down the line.
Yeah, and I don't know how long they'll be able to hold out for because what I said basically, yeah. So financially, it makes sense for Sony. However, from being a consumer, right? So step back and say from consumer perspective, right? We should 100% rake them over the coals for this. We should 100% set them on fire for this. Like this is not acceptable. I think when everybody else is doing, especially the specific lockout, because you can choose what you want with your platform, of course. But if you're going to lock out the account from being played on other things, Epic Games does share some responsibility here. And this is something, just a theoretical I actually talked about on my other stuff. But basically, we were kind of determining, okay, so Epic Games has the ability to undo this because we've seen before, actually, Epic Games had enabled crossplay by accident once, and they just basically flipped a switch. And they've said also, we could get this working in a number of hours. So Epic Games potentially, they could cross Sony. I don't think it'll happen, but they could say no to Sony and they could turn it on. They could turn off the account lock, I should say, actually. And then it becomes the balls in Sony's court because the argument then is, does Epic need Sony or does Sony need Epic? Fortnite's the most popular game, but PS4 is the most popular console. And as far as things go right now, I feel like Epic might actually win that exchange. Of course, Epic Games doesn't have as much money behind them as Sony does. But Sony, as the platform holder, might have to, if that were the case, give into some demands a little bit, I feel. Because the demands aren't, especially because of the PR push as well. Imagine, too, if Epic Games put the PR behind it. Like the PR plus the fact that Sony really wants Fortnite, they could probably get away with forcing it on Sony if they really wanted to. But yeah, no, it's... Microsoft's doing it because it's probably also financial on Microsoft's end though, because that's the thing with a company, right? You don't know 100% if they're doing it to be friendly to consumers or if they're doing it because it's beneficial. Like we don't know if Microsoft would turn around and scorn us in the next generation if they become, the tops. So we don't know. But I will say this much: if based on what Microsoft's been doing, because they've been doing very well in terms of quality of life stuff, in terms of consumer friendly stuff, if they walk back on that next generation, that's going to make it very difficult for them, considering what they've set up. But yeah, this whole debacle is really, really it's a terrible situation for Sony to be in, and they've not responded to it well. But there's something else that actually also got brought up because of the the Switch port of Fortnite. Did you hear about the voice chats thing?
No, I did not hear about
this is great. So to use voice chat on Switch is probably the most cumbersome, unnecessary thing ever. So you have to have a smartphone app, and you have to plug your mic into the smartphone via a headset and use the app to use voice chat on Switch. You can't just do it on Switch because Nintendo wants you to use their app, right? And it's unreasonable. At the very beginning, you couldn't actually close the app. You couldn't have it running in the background. It had to be the primary app for you to use voice chat. So the funny thing that happened, though, is Fortnite comes on Switch, right? And people find out they can just plug in a headset directly to the Switch and voice chat works. So what that means is Nintendo has been intentionally locking the feature out, but it is a feature present in the console. And something my buddy Sam brought up is that there's actually different microphone jacks or different microphone inputs and headset inputs that would determine if you're able to do that or not. So it's actually a hardware thing. So hardware-wise, in the Switch, you can totally plug it in and use voice chat, but Nintendo's not allowing that to happen. Yeah. Okay. So Nintendo's not allowing it to happen, which is, shame on them sort of situation. But they want to push their app as much as they can, clearly. But yeah.
Well, also just to clarify, I believe with Fortnite crossplay, PS can play with PC.
Yes, PS can play with PC. True.
But beyond that, I had a point that I was going to make. Right. So this lockout, start with the Sony Fortnite thing. Would it be like this if it wasn't for Fortnite? If it wasn't a game that wasn't in such in the limelight right now, would people still be as outraged, or would it still be making headlines?
Probably not. And the reason I'd say so is because this lockout existed previously. So it wasn't something they just put in, but the only reason we didn't hear about it was because at that point it was just between PC, Xbox and PS4. So nobody was really sure, okay, is Sony locking out or is Microsoft locking out, or is it just making sense they don't want to compete cross-platform? But then when Switch enters the fray and Xbox buddies up to Switch and Nintendo and, PS4 is locking everybody else out, then it becomes a Sony problem. So until then, it was just kind of a news story that went around on Fortnite forums. I did a bit of diving into that. But yeah, now it's actually blown up. But I don't think without the Switch intervening, it wouldn't have. It really wouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah,
And so you said Epic has the power to cross Sony, basically. And I agree. I
they
think
could. Yeah.
they could, but would they?
No, no, I don't think they would. But it's more of a theoretical, fun situation, right? It's
Right,
a
right.
fun
Yeah.
argument to have. Is could they, and what would happen? Would
Like,
be the
could they
fun part.
afford to? Like,
Mhm.
what if 6 months from now Fortnite crashes and burns dramatically,
Yeah.
and the next game that they have, the only partner people who might be willing to partner up with them is Sony.
Mhm.
But Sony's like, I remember that time when we did the thing when we told you not to do the thing, and now you want us to do a thing for you.
Well, it's funny because right now the dynamic I feel favors well, so like it's tough, right? Because platform holder, you need to go through the platform holder and publishers and that sort of thing to be able to put something out. But Epic Games traditionally makes games for Microsoft, and I don't think Sony would be like, let's say this happens, right? Let's say this happens, and in the future, Fortnite goes down, Epic's making another game. I don't know if would it make business sense at that point for Sony to say, because that's the thing, there's a grudge, sure, but does it make business sense for Sony to say, no, we want that to be a Microsoft exclusive, that next game you're making, because then that
Yeah,
the ball's in
yeah.
Sony's court, right? Because Epic could be like, hey, I mean, we're publishing it everywhere, but if you don't want us, so I think that even should they slight them, they would allow their next game to be there. It just kind of hurt from a like the PR people probably between Epic and
Right,
Sony would have
right.
some fights, but other than that, it probably wouldn't affect too much.
And so, do you think within the next, let's say, 4 weeks,
Yeah.
do you think Sony's gonna be like, "Hey guys, we've heard your complaints and we've taken into consideration. Here's crossplay because Fortnite does have
Yeah.
125 million concurrent players."
Oh man, I don't. So crossplay, I think, is the best case scenario because we might get the account lockout changed. Crossplay, I don't know because crossplay hasn't been a victory for crossplay yet. And Sony did put out a response, and their response was completely ignoring the problem, and they put it out within like a few days of the news story. So I would be surprised. I would be very surprised if they did it. I think they're gonna ride this one out. I think they're gonna try and ride this one out. But Microsoft and Nintendo are seizing on the opportunity. They put out a commercial together.
I saw that.
Yeah,
It's really cute. I think I
it
only saw like the
is.
ending panel. It
Yeah.
was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a Minecraft crossplay commercial for between Xbox and Nintendo. It shows people with the Xbox One and then playing on the Switch and building stuff together, fighting stuff together. And that's a fun little industry, history tidbit. That's definitely wholesome as far as marketing campaigns go. So
Yeah. And then you talked about the Switch and the hardware issues,
yeah,
which is a software issue, not a hardware issue.
right.
Now, do you think, and I've been thinking about this quite a while recently, the Switch, there's no doubt to its popularity. It's
Mhm.
been selling well. I think it outsold the Wii U in a year, or
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
outsold the Wii U in a year.
It did
Um,
because very handily actually. The Wii U only sold I think 13.56 million units, and the Switch right last we heard at the end of March I believe was at 18 or
that's a lot.
17.9 or something. So yeah,
That's a lot of units.
yeah,
Um, So, but there are issues with the Switch. There are
yeah.
issues with how Nintendo's running the software, with the hardware. Do you think they're just um, building up on their hardware, no, building up on the hype, collaborating with other developers, other studios, setting up the foundations in terms of advertising, marketing before they come out with the bam, Switch 2, and it's like so much better and everything that they asked for?
It's tough. I think Nintendo's doing two things right now. So one tidbit that was interesting was they said that it was actually going to be like they said don't expect a Switch revision soon. So longer than usual. So we'll probably be still waiting a year or two, maybe two or more even for another revision for the Switch. That being said, hardware problems are piling up. There's the left Joy-Con issue with the antenna. There's the fact that they can physically be hacked with the short out thing.
Right.
There's some patent label situations as well, I believe. So like their hardware problems with it are starting to pile up. But what they're doing right now really is rebuilding a lot of bridges because Nintendo hasn't had third party support in a big sense for a long time. Probably since the GameCube, arguably. We had a ton of third party support. Like, don't get me wrong, but the type we're talking about, which is parity with the consoles that are out right now. Of course, not graphically, but to put it this way, is that the Wii was too underpowered for most of the things to get ported over. So a lot of people stopped kind of working with them on their main games. But especially nowadays, we're seeing with the likes of Bethesda and Capcom starting to get in there a little bit. They're experimenting. They're trying to really port true experiences of theirs, core experiences, over to Switch. So Nintendo's doing a lot of rebuilding, especially after the Wii U when nobody would work with them. So they're rebuilding. Their issues are piling up, but I think that should they come out with the revision for the Switch, it will fix all those problems. This dock probably won't scratch, the antenna. There will be an antenna in the left Joy-Con, that sort of thing. And I'm sure voice chat will be, they can only force it for so long. I feel, right. Third parties will probably make it so that you could just voice chat naturally, but then the Nintendo first parties won't. But we'll see if Nintendo changes their mind on that. But yeah, no, they're in a position where they're growing right now. They're selling a lot of consoles, and it's a matter to see if they're going to hit their targets. I think they're going to fall a little short of their target for this year, but I don't think it's going to be too short.
I think the hardware issues might also be because of the insanely high demand, and so they had to push out units like there was no tomorrow. So probably because of the quality, the quantity, the quality started lacking in some of the other units. That's probably at least that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about, so like some of the problems were design problems. Like the fact that there was not an antenna in the left Joy-Con is a design problem. And that's why it'll disconnect sometimes and you'll find your character running away if you have one of the original units. And that's just a straight, oversight in terms of they thought it would be enough and it wasn't when they were designing it. The Switch dock thing, I don't know so much about, because I could very much see them, considering what's in the Switch dock, I could see them basically outsourcing. They probably outsourced the design of that. And I'm not sure. I would have been surprised if they didn't get hands-on and noticed to scratch the screen, but I don't know. I don't know what that process was and how much testing they did there, because the fact of the matter is the natural dock with the natural Switch does scratch the screen if you're taking it in and out a ton, even if you're being very careful, which is why I put a protector on mine like day one. Right. But yeah, no, they probably sped it out a little bit, and I know their design seemed a little bit sped out. Like they clearly missed a few things, but there's the case where a lot of people do, the launch PS3 cooked eggs, the launch Xbox 360, had the red ring of death and it's astounding numbers. So console failures, when you first run, you can't predict every problem and how severe the problem will be until you have millions of units out there. So, it's hard
because there's no beta program for like, oh, we'll give you this console. Why don't you just drag it through the mud, drop it off a building, do whatever you can, and find out all the problems so we can fix it and put it out for launch. Hey,
and even when there is, right, generally how testing works is they'll look at a production line and they'll test one every so many units and see if there's a default. And that way they can say, okay, is this line faulty? Is this line not faulty? But there's no test comparison that you can do that will be the equivalent of getting, 5 million of that console out there and then people start to find a problem. You can't test with a test group of millions. That's a release.
So, all right. So Cam, this is the plan. We're gonna pitch Microsoft or Sony, whoever wants to listen. We're gonna buy up 1 million units.
Yep.
Right, of whatever their next gen console is. We'll find 1 million people, and then we'll just sit in the warehouse, have a huge slumber party, and just game like 24/7. And obviously they have to pay us because it doesn't. Yeah, they have to pay us. We're testing it for them, and we just play it on like. You can't really choose like graphical settings on consoles, but we'll find like the most demanding games and just grind it out like constantly.
Yeah, and we'll throw them around and we'll take them in and out of the docks and we'll break the controllers. We'll throw our Wiimotes at television screens and see if it cracks.
And then at the end, the best part is we'll get away with 2 next gen consoles. Yep. Everybody else has returned theirs, and they're not going to realize until they've counted and taken inventory and then logged in all the reports and all the failures.
And at the end, there'll only be one console design left. Really, a battle royale of mechanic designs. So.
Console royale.
Yeah, they should do that. They should. All joking aside, they might even do this. They should realistically, right? They have early design ideas for consoles. They should mock up like 3 or 4 and put them through the ringer and see which one survives the longest.
Or whichever one, like, put it through the production line. Whichever one comes out first, or comes out with no problem.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So what do we got?
Steam Summer Sale is back.
Yeah. Oh man. Every year it gets a little more. It's that thing where every year the Steam sale gets a little more disappointing just by nature of you've bought all the things you wanted in the past. Right. So it always gets less and less and less. But this year, I think they took the cake for not phoning it in necessarily, but oh man, oh man, the gimmick they have this year is pretty silly. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
Salients,
Salience, you know,
and
like
it's a limited time sale.
Well, so what they're doing is Salience is a like browser game you can play in the app and in the website where it's just tower defense basically that enters you in a sweepstakes with other players to win a Steam key of like a game. So a planet that you might fight on might be like, oh, here's the pirate planet where you can win I forget what it was called. Not Uncharted, the Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, or some of the other pirate games. And they have just a bunch of different theme planet, like the Fine Arts planet for artistic games, or the Mind Melding planet for weird, subverting your expectations games. And you fight on them to get entered and a chance to win. But the thing is, this is like a super phoned in Flash browser game that looks like it was made in like a day or something like that. It's also running on the same server as the site itself and the store page.
So that's why it crashed.
Yeah. So it crashes every second, and the store crashes too because of the game. It's like, really, really, you probably should have figured that one out ahead of time.
You think with the amount of money that they make, they'd be able to like, all right, we can set up one private server.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're clearly running on the same server as the store page because they're timing each other out all the time. So
I was so excited yesterday. It went live yesterday, right? 22nd, no, 21st. So
yeah,
2 days ago.
2 days ago. Yeah.
Logged in and on the client, and I'm like, let's see what's being sold, and then nothing was loading. I couldn't see anything. I'm like, oh man, I'll check again later. Came back in the evening, same thing, and I could only see all the deals yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I asked you about JRPG recommendations, and you recommended Tokyo.
Yeah, so a couple things. So just one more thing about the game real quick that I forgot.
Yeah.
So the thing about the game is allegedly the best way to be entered to win your prizes, like the best highest chance, is you actually just fight once and then stay on the planet without playing, and you just idle there. So apparently idling is the most effective way to try and get keys, which is funny because if you're idling, then you're not looking at the store to buy things. Which is maybe a design not intentional on their end, because what that means is that, oh wait, you can't do both at the same time unless you load up the website and the app. So they're actually probably screwing themselves out of sales a little bit there, or at least people looking at the store. But yeah, so you asked for JRPG recommendations, and it was tough because I was like, okay, what do you want though? So you said an action JRPG, not post-apocalyptic. So you wanted some of that core JRPG stuff. You want some of the good stuff.
Yeah. I want some like unicorns and some kawaii and some like and like magic. And then you recommended Tokyo
Xanadu. Yeah,
Xanadu and Ys Origins. But first you recommended Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I tried Ys Origins. I downloaded the demo. The game mechanics are different to what I'm used to, because I'm used to shooters.
I was gonna say,
slash like Skyrim, Witcher 3. So it was weird, and I couldn't wrap my head like the combo systems. But it was fun. I had some fun with it.
Yeah.
I'm just for the price, I would probably buy it. Just because I can't be like, oh, I played this for 20 minutes, I don't really like it. Like, I feel like it takes at least a little bit longer than that to say you don't really like the game.
Yeah, it is a tough sell. I mean, let me tell you, dude, it's very much a tough sell, though. That's why I recommended Dark Souls first, was because I was trying to think of, okay, what's a good action RPG that can take a little bit of the Western game experience you've had and bring it over there? Because, jumping into Ys, going from, playing Destiny and shooters to jumping into Ys is a big jump. Like, I didn't jump at the East for a long time, like that little subset of games there. So it is definitely a tough sell. But, what's great about the East series as a whole is you're supposed to play it incredibly fast, especially Origins and some of the other Steam. The ones you'll see on Steam, a lot of them you play incredibly fast. So like Ys Origins, the gameplay is extremely fast. You're supposed to be jumping around, you're supposed to be spinning.
Yeah, I noticed that was fun. The demo gave me 3 emblems. It gave me shield, which was I think the lightning. It gave me the fire, like wavy circles of destruction, and something else I don't remember. And that was fun. I was just running around, mashing the buttons, trying to memorize which one was jump and which one was attack, and I couldn't figure it out, so I was just mashing both constantly. And then the mouse movement directional vector thing was also weird, but
yeah. So I think I'm trying to remember if I played that with the controller or not. I don't remember what I played it with. A lot of these games were, or, it's better sometimes playing with a controller that has a analog, but I don't remember how I played it on Steam originally. But yeah, as a series, they play very fast gameplay wise. You're supposed to run through very fast. You're supposed to get caught up in the soundtrack too, like with the rhythm, because the soundtrack is always this like really, really fast, hard rock, Borderland on metal soundtrack. And so it's thrashing all over the place. And when you keep up pace for it, it feels really, really good. Very difficult. And if you go on the higher difficulties, very difficult bosses, it becomes a bullet hell. It becomes a bullet hell at times, actually, with bosses, and it's overall very entertaining, but it's definitely more difficult to get into. But it was a tough recommendation because I was trying to give you something modern and something that fit those, but it wasn't going to be too in there. But it is tough. I would suggest, I think, a couple transitionary games are necessary before you get into there.
Yeah. So then I was thinking about it, and then after I played that demo, I'm like, I really just want to either like a silly shoot 'em up game, or because I just want to fun, like you go in for like 20 minutes, oh, you have some fun, play like through a stage or whatever, and or like a hack and slash. And so I started looking at possibly picking up Bayonetta. They put out the remastered version, and I always thought Bayonetta looked just ridiculous, and I just want to play it. Or Dark Souls, but Dark Souls, I want to chill. Like I just want to chill, and Dark Souls seems like it's very like soul crushing.
Yeah, Dark Souls, I will say, is it's hyped up more than it is. Like, it's not as hard as people like. I'll put it this way: if Dark Souls was hard, I wouldn't be able to beat it, because we've talked about on streams before and that sort of thing. If anybody watches my streams, I'm terrible at games that require quick inputs and stuff like that. But luckily, Dark Souls isn't about quick inputs. Dark Souls is about being aware of your environment, taking things methodically, slowly, and carefully. So if you're playing it and you're aware of your surroundings, if you're not just running forward without the idea that, oh, there might be a trap above my head, oh, there might be an enemy behind a corner, you're going to have a hard time if you're running in without considering those things. But if you're considering those things, if you're taking it methodically and slow, being very intentional with your attacks, it's a very good time, and it's very doable. So I had no problem with Dark Souls, but it's definitely the you're going to die thing is hyped up a lot more than it should be, I think. Like, you will die a decent amount, but if you're careful about it, it's a very entertaining time, and not as high tension necessarily, because you can take things slow at your own pace for the most part. But yeah, Bayonetta, that's the thing, right? Not an RPG necessarily, but if you were to ask me, hey, Cam, recommend me a Japanese action game, I'd be like, oh, because yeah, get on Bayonetta, get on Devil May Cry, get on all that stuff, get on everything that Platinum Games has ever made, 100%. So I definitely super recommend Bayonetta. Definitely.
Yeah, just even from the trailer, Babylon's Fall, the trailer that they showcased at E3 looks epic.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be. That's the thing. Like, Platinum's good at what they make, and they almost always only make that sort of stylish action game. They could branch out, but it'll probably be a stylish action game regardless. I'll love it. I'll tell you that right now. Regardless, I'll love it. But yeah, no, getting in Bayonetta is a good thing to do right now, definitely. So, especially because 3's coming out, and you'll have, if you pick up a Switch, you'll have the ability to play 1 and 2 there too.
Eventually, yeah. And then I was looking at Kingdoms of Amalur.
Oh man, do you know the story behind that game?
No idea.
Okay, Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. So I'll start with this. I was actually I was there during its development. So Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning was made in Rhode Island. Okay. And it was made in my state, and it was actually a really big controversy. So are you familiar with sports at all? Like,
what kind of sports
stuff? It's like baseball.
No.
Okay.
Baseball, no.
So Red Sox, in the Red Sox is a very famous pitcher, I believe, called Curt Schilling. And Curt Schilling was working on this game, Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, with a studio called 38 Studios. I could tell the story another time, but basically I ended up accidentally going to Curt Schilling's house and stumbled upon him working on the game when it was being created. So that's a fun side story if you ever want to hear it, and I can talk about that. But basically what happened was, the state of Rhode Island, figuring that they were going to try and become some sort of, Providence, our capital, was going to become some sort of, game development haven. They gave a bunch of credit to 38 Studios and spent a bunch of taxpayer money, like millions of dollars, to give them subsidies so that they can make their game. And then Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning came out, and it was only okay and completely undersold, to the point where, Curt Schilling, I think, went into not bankruptcy, but he had to shut down the studio. He might have gone even into bankruptcy, and, they lost all the money and they could never get it back. So all that taxpayer money was wasted. And so Rhode Island is now like the state of Rhode Island basically was sacrificed to make Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Like, we lost so much money on it because we're such a small state that they were trying to court them to come in and make the game here. But it was a gamble that did not pay off. So we lost so much money.
Okay, so that's a backstory to
That's the
Kingdom
backstory to the
Hearts,
game.
but how is the game itself? Have you played
It's
it?
it's yeah, of course I have to. We're all
Yeah, of
forced to.
course. Yeah.
We're all forced to because
It's you come in to school at 8
yep,
a.m. from 8 to 8:30 every day. You have to start a log into your account,
yep.
play some Kingdoms, and then before you go home too, from 1:30 to
Hmm.
2, you have to play a little bit before you head home. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, people were talking about it on Twitter. I'm pretty sure. I think that's where I posted it. And I was like, it was a grim day when they shut down the studio because ever since they've been forcing us into the clam mines every day to make up for it, the Quahog mines in Rhode Island. So we have to
Yeah.
make up for it. But yeah, no, I played it, and it's that's the thing, right? It's fine. And that's a problem in that period of time. In that period of time, fine wasn't enough. And
Right.
so it did okay, sold decently, but it was not some smash hit, amazing wide scope open world that they had intended it to be. In reality, it's really just like a single player MMO in terms of gameplay. It feels like you're playing a single player MMO with a combat system, mind you, that's definitely superior to a lot of MMOs, but it does feel
Okay.
like that sort of like, if this was an MMORPG, it very easily could be, but it's not. So yeah, Kingdoms of Amalur, it's definitely, if you can get it cheap, $5 worth of pickup. But yeah, if you can, pretty much anyone who's in Rhode Island who knows about video games, that sort of thing, if you mention the game, they can't help but just be like, oh man, like, oh.
Well, I'll tell you this: it is $5
Yeah.
Canadian for me right now.
Oh
This
man.
summer sale.
Yeah, well, that's what we get. Yeah, but yeah, I actually, before even all this, so as I mentioned, I stumbled upon the game in early development because it turns out my cousins were friends with Kurt Schilling, because he
Right.
had he had a son my cousin's age, and we were at a party in the town where he lives, and we were just going back to his son's house. I was there for the weekend, and they're like, "Yeah, let's just go back to our friend Gary's house," and I didn't like, it was just this huge mansion, right? Enormous place, under, big theater inside, movie theater inside, baseball courts, all that stuff, right? And then, of course, we're watching, I think, 28 Days, like the zombie movie.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then Kurt Schilling walks in. And I'm like, oh, that's why all of this, huh? And then he was showing us like this game he was making, which eventually turned out to be Kingdoms of
Kingdoms of
Amalur.
Amalur. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, man, I must have been 8, like 12, 11 at the time, 12, 13 maybe. I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, so that's that. So if you do want to pick it up, definitely worth that amount of money. But there's a lot of story to that game. So
Is there anything you have your eyes on this summer sale?
I'm gonna play it serious this time. This is the first summer sale where I'm on my own now financially and that sort of thing. I'm making money, so I'm gonna just what I'm gonna do, honestly, because there's no flash sales, which honestly I miss. But everything's this on sale till July 5th. I'm gonna load up my wish list and my cart with everything I want, absolutely everything, and then pare it down at the end and maybe spend $100
Yeah,
and see
that
what's
was
the
my
most
plan too.
effective way I can spend $100. Because
Yeah.
my thing is like I like physicals. I love console physical. So anything that's on a console I can get physical. I won't be buying here, but anything that's on a PC. So this is going to be where I'm picking up all my indies, probably some
Right.
double A
Right.
games
Right.
that are just digital, that sort of thing. I have a new computer now too, so I can play everything. So
Okay.
I'm gonna look around at probably a lot of visual novels because I really like visual novels. I'm gonna grab up some of those. I'm gonna grab up. I know. I might grab up Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Actually,
I was thinking about that, but
yeah,
I can't do horror games, so
yeah.
and it's not like it's not based
Right,
in
right.
horror, but it does get like scary.
It does get
Um,
scary, yeah. But
so
I'll pick that up. I might pick up some space exploration games. It might be time to finally get Elite Dangerous or something like that. But
right.
mostly I neglect indies like crazy. So I'm just gonna go through and grab any indies I can find really that are interesting. So if anyone has indie suggestions, feel free to shoot them at me, honestly, at Cam Collects on Twitter. So
Okay. Um, okay, yeah, so that's pretty much it. We're gonna move into the game releases coming out this week.
all right.
We've got Heimrick that released on the 19th of June on
Mhm.
PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Any idea what that is?
Yep. So that's it's a puzzle adventure game. And the big thing about it, it's an indie puzzle adventure game. And what they said art style wise, the art style first off looks it's almost like half drawn. So it almost looks like if I'm remembering correctly, it's almost like a brown back canvas or a tan back canvas and it looks drawn on. But
Okay.
they're trying to mix the gameplay and the narrative itself. And I only really looked at a trailer for it. So I'm not sure how they achieve that. But yes, an indie puzzle game is what you're going to get out of that. So,
And we've got Sniper Rust VR for the Rift that also
yep.
released on the 19th.
It's a sniper campaign in VR. You have to fight an insurgency, I believe, and it's a VR sniper game. So you're getting
Okay.
what you pay for there.
And then this seems like a game that I feel like you would know about. Anima Gate of Memories, The Nameless Chronicles, PC, PS4, Xbox One, that
Yep.
was released on June 19th.
Yeah, so the thing about that. So was this the one with Anima? This isn't Anima Gate of Memories. This is Anima Gate of Memories something
The
nameless, right?
Nameless
Yeah, so
Chronicles, yeah.
so this is a sequel, and I actually didn't really know about this because I don't think it's Japanese. Like usually, it does sound like it's a JRPG.
No, it sounds like your
It
kind of game.
100%. Like when I looked at it, I actually looked for the PSV tag. I was like, is that a Vita release? Like I looked for the Vita release, but it's an action RPG. I do know that. So it's an action RPG. I believe the synopsis is that you're the being of unknown origin, some immortal being, and you have to find out what's going on with you and that sort of thing. And it's a third-person action RPG. So I don't know if it inspired necessarily. I only saw a couple screenshots of it, but I'll put it this way, right? I saw a part of the game that made it look like it might have been trying to DMC a little bit of Devil May Cry. It looked like the guy was almost in Dante's like up in the air jumping gun pose when he's shooting. So I got those vibes at least that it was a little bit DMC, but I'm not too sure on that. I just know it is an action RPG. So
It is an action RPG inspired by Japanese RPGs.
okay, all right.
But I can't find any sort of information on where the
I was
devs are
just gonna
based.
say, what's the dev team called? I could probably tell you based on that.
They're called Anima Project.
They're probably not.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on, let me.
Um,
I'll double check, but but
then
yeah.
we've got Lost in Harmony that came out on the PC and Switch on the 21st.
Yeah, I think that's actually, is that a mobile port? I thought there was a mobile game of that beforehand.
Lost in
Could have sworn. Let's see. Oh yeah, Anima Project Studio, indie studio formed by just 3 people who dedicated their lives to games. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
it's a mobile port.
okay, yeah, so this is a mobile port of, I'm not sure too much about gameplay on this one, unfortunately, but
The
it's on
devs
PC
are
and Switch.
DigixArt.
Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is a Switch port now. I know that much.
And then we've got a game that we've talked about plenty before that officially came out now yesterday,
Yeah.
the 22nd of June, Mario Tennis Aces.
Oh boy.
And we've talked about how it's pretty much a fighting game. And so we're not going to go too much into it because we've had plenty of conversations. But I was reading something that I didn't know about where you can win the game by breaking your opponent's rackets.
Yeah, no, that's what we were talking about. It's part of the joke about it's a fighting game is there's like HP and life bar and meter management. Like there's mechanics to be like, oh, you could just go for a KO or you could play tennis. So like, no, there's a lot to it. I'm the only one in my group, my other group who didn't pick it up because I don't do multiplayer much. And so
Okay.
there wasn't enough single player content for me. And that's the thing too. Apparently the single player campaign is pretty short and pretty lackluster, but multiplayer, I mean, the mechanics of the game are so good that multiplayer wise, if you enjoy getting competitive, you're gonna like this a ton.
All the reviews I've read are like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of reviewers, I did notice, I think the review score actually might be muted a little bit by the fact that it's very difficult, and they probably just played the single player content for review purposes because it is incredibly brutal and difficult. But like, difficulty isn't necessarily, unless it's unfair difficulty, something that I'll put it this way: journalists have a hard time getting through things sometimes. I'll say that as nice as I can.
Because they have time crunches and they have
Yeah.
to get things out now. So when they can't spend time on like a game that's
Mhm.
focused on multiplayer, they're not essentially going to give it like the best review, especially if it's
Right.
they pick it up from the get go.
Right, and another thing to consider too. I mean, motor functions do decrease with age, and game journalists these days. I mean, game journalists are mostly in their 30s and 40s now. So compared to a
Which I'm
15-year-old,
no ageist, but that's weird.
yeah, no,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is just because the industry is only a one generation industry so
That's
far.
true,
So
yeah.
there are all the people who started in it. Next generation is honestly us. I think our age group is probably the next generation, but we got to get in there first.
It's like have you ever seen an old rapper, like an 80-year-old like
Oh,
famous
yeah,
rapper,
no.
that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. Hopefully, some make it till the tender ages of 80.
yeah, that'll be tough.
And then we've got PUBG's Sandhook map that came
Mhm.
out yesterday, 22nd of June for PC.
Yep.
And there's a new Gundam Breaker on
Yeah.
the PS4 that also came out on the 22nd.
Gundam Breaker is a cool series. So Gundam Breaker is Gunpla. So those models that they build, like the Gundam models people build, that's called Gunpla. And the Gundam game is you play as a Gunpla, and basically you're fighting in like households and stuff like that, like people's houses, and you fight each other in an arena, and you break off parts of the other Gundam, and then you can put them on yourself, and customize your Gundam and stuff like that.
Breaker makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, customize your mobile suit and that sort of thing. So that series is actually really nice, and we don't get too many of them in the West, I believe. Oh, I don't know if this is the first localization or not, but it is coming out for the West, which is pretty impressive because usually they don't. I don't think 3 did for a while. It's tough, right? Because there's always it's region free console, the PS4 and the Vita as well, so you can always import it, and there might be English subs because of Asian releases, but it might not be a Western release game. So, but this case it is. In this case, it is, but it might be the first one of that nature. So it's very nice, yeah.
Okay, and there's one more that's not listed on here, but that's the entire Crash and Sane trilogy, the remastered version, is coming out for the Xbox and PC June 29th, which I'm personally excited for. Yeah, so I might actually, a big chunk of my Steam money is probably going to go into that. I'm split between buying it for my Xbox or for the PC, just because playing it on the Xbox would bring back some of the controller nostalgia.
Yeah.
But then I'd have obviously superior graphics and be able to stream it if I got it on the PC.
Yep. I will say it's going to feel very, very bizarre playing the original Crash on an Xbox.
Yeah.
That's like, yikes.
Like I could buy it on my PC, and I could just hook up my controller to it too, right?
Yeah, true. You totally can.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Cool. Anything else we want to go over before we start wrapping up?
I don't think I have anything. I think I'm all set.
No, we're good. We miss Tyler. We're happy for him, but it's unfortunate that he had to abandon us and leave us for the Wolves
to die.
To die.
He had no reason to. Winning's not important.
So this is the weekly spiel on St. Jude's coming in. St. Jude's is a research facility. They battle childhood cancer. Any research that they put out, that they come out, any breakthroughs, they put it out as research for free, and everybody use it. I'm going to a convention in July, 13th and 14th of July in Tampa Bay, Florida, called Guardian Con, that is partnered with St. Jude's. 2016, they raised $500,000. 2017, they raised $1.3 million. This year, they're already at $900,000, and their goal is $3 million, which I think is entirely possible because they partnered up with Dr. Lupo, with Ninja, all the top Fortnite streamers, King Richard, Real Crafty. It's going to be great. The charity block starts on the 4th or 5th of July. If you look up Guardian Con on Google, you find their Twitter and their Facebook, and they'll have all the information there. That's when they make the bulk of their money. Do that. If you don't support, go to guardiancon.co/support, and you'll be able to donate money. If you don't do that, you're a jerk because you support cancer and you suck.
And that's true. If you don't donate, you support cancer, and you don't want to do that. Cancer's bad. You don't want to be on that side. That's the wrong side of history.
That's the wrong side of history to be on. You can email us at casualmasterquest@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at masterquestpod. All podcasts and gaming can be found on our YouTube channel, which we will link on our Twitter. A plug-in for Tyler because he's not here today. He is at 2xTyler on Twitter. You can find me at LRWarrior11 and my Mixer, which is mixer.com/LRWarrior11. And streams will be coming back soon, I hope, eventually, whenever I do find time. Cam, where can we find you?
You can find me at Cam Collects on Twitter. I use it every day, so please come and talk to me there. I tweet like 4 times a day, probably. I also stream on twitch.tv/Cam Collects. I do that Monday nights at 7 p.m. EST, doing Pokemon Emerald Randomize. And then Friday at 4 p.m. EST, I'm going through games I've never played before that are very prolific on consoles for the very first time. So we actually just yesterday played DuckTales. We beat DuckTales in one go. Yep. And next week is either 1942 or Gradius, both shoot 'em ups on the NES.
Okay.
So that's what I do there. And then I also run another podcast besides this, and you can find that at intothevideogame.libsyn.com or on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all those places if you just search Into the Video Game. And that's it for me.
So thanks for hanging out, folks. Thanks for listening. This episode, just as a disclaimer, will be out a little bit later because Tyler does all the production and he will be back from his honeymoon a little bit later in the week. Yep. So normally the episode comes out on Monday mornings, I believe, Eastern. It comes out like Sunday midnight for me or like 11 p.m. for me. So yeah, expect it to be later throughout middle of the week. And don't forget to never stop the grind. I butchered that completely, Tyler. I'm sorry. Please.
That's okay. You said it. You got it out there.
Me.
I believe in you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.